There we go. How's everyone doing today? Excellent. Oh man, chat's already off the hook. Look at that. We got Josh here, Mr. Cole, David. David, where you been on Fridays, man? You've been leaving us in the cold. Okay. Um, Chris, sweet. Excellent. Gunter, thanks for coming on. Cool. Excellent. So today I thought it would be fun to, as you probably read the email on the post or whatever, that on Friday during the hangout, Sean, don't know if Sean's here or not, but Sean had a question. He's actually working on a project with David, who's here, and I believe it. Yeah, David's here, David Shea, and they're kind of collaborating on a project, right? And they're wondering on workflows for how can they both work on a project and keep things kind of in sync, right? Now, there's caveats. I think working on the same project file with two people is definitely going to be a challenge. Okay. There's things we could do to kind of improve that, and part of that is what I'm going to show today. Okay. So if you're not aware, there's a common version control system out there called Git, Git. Okay. And probably there's services. I'm sure you've all heard of a service called GitHub. It's now owned by Microsoft. It's probably the #1 repository online for open source projects, and it's a great service. It's where I host all of my code and all of that. Okay, so I am fully aware of GitHub, Git. I've used other services as well. GitLab is another one. You can actually, if you have like something like a Synology or something like that, you can actually host it like locally on your local network. But with that said, today we're gonna look at GitHub. Okay, and the workflow with GitHub is nice because they actually have their own app which is free. I use a different app that's like a total app for developers, and it's really specific for development. But we're gonna today look at the free GitHub app and what you can do to version control your project files. And then if I don't talk about it, we're going to talk about how this will work in a multi-person, potentially a multi-user environment. And there is, again, that workflow isn't seamless. I don't think it'll ever be seamless, at least for the foreseeable future, having multiple people work on the same exact project file. Okay, but again, we're going to look at that. Hey, so without further ado, let's go ahead and share my screen. I was actually hoping to get a little bit of stuff prepped for this, but I've been dealing with some other side drama this week. So yeah, if you're familiar, all the other drama going on in the communities with Elixir and everything. So it's been fun times with that. But let's go ahead and I'm going to open up a browser. And we're going to go to GitHub. Okay. And what I'm actually going to do is, so you'll create an account on GitHub, and we'll go to my profile. Okay. And what we're going to do right now is we are actually going to let's create a repo. I have to admit, wonder what is easier. I'm going to open up the GitHub desktop app. Okay. If you just Google GitHub desktop, it is a free app that they have. Okay. And you log into your GitHub account. Okay. And let's see, repository. Can I do a new repository straight from here? File, new repository. Let's do that. Okay. So this is kind of cool. Okay. So you actually don't need to create. Outside of this, you would have to create a repository in GitHub, and then with my other app or locally, I'd configure it. But since this is all GitHub, we can actually do it locally, which is kind of cool. Okay. So we're going to create a repository, and let's just call this something interesting. Let's just call it Stacks version live stream. Okay. So, and it's saying that, hey, I don't have one created like that. So let's say we're going to create one for us. Thank you very much. All right, and let's choose the path. We'll just add it to documents GitHub. It's fine. We'll just keep that. And just keep all the rest of this the same. Okay. And just say create repository. All right. So now I assume actually, if I look online, if I go to, where do I see my repositories? Where did it create it? Interesting. It says it created it. Maybe I have to publish. Oh, publish repository. All right. So I'm going to click publish, publish it to github.com, organization. I'm just going to, no organization, just going to publish it to my personal account. We're not going to go into GitHub organizations right now. All right. So now I've published that. And if we go to GitHub, now there it is. All right. So here is my repository online on GitHub, and it's currently empty. Right. And that's okay, because we're going to put some stuff in it. All right. So now what we're going to do is let's create a project file. I'm going to create just one from scratch. It doesn't really matter the contents of the project, right? We're just going to create a new project file. Here, for right now, we're going to close, or I'll move it over here in case I need it again. But we don't really need that any longer online. It was just to show you how you can create a GitHub account and pretty much manage everything from the GitHub app, which is nice. All right, so I'm just going to quickly just create something here. Just going to go boop, and we're going to go and boop, and we're going to go and add a header. Actually, let's just add some text, right? And here we'll add an image. Why not? All right, just so that we can have something. Voila. All right. So there's my beautiful, lovely website. Again, doesn't really matter. All right. And let's save that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this file to this folder that we created. Okay. And just so you see, I saved it in, I think it was documents. Hold on. Where did it save it? Where's documents? I thought I saved it in. Reveal in Finder. Where did it show it? Where did it put it? Oh, there it is. All right. So, it's under documents under iCloud. So documents, GitHub there. Okay. Word of caution. I don't know. It defaults to this location. I personally don't like storing, any of my version control things on iCloud. Okay. Or especially not Dropbox. Never, ever, 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 ever. I can't explain this enough. Do not ever store a Git repository on Dropbox. Never do it. I'm warning you. Okay. I lost a lot of code because of that. Caused me a lot of heartache. Okay. I'm gonna go with this for right now. But I've never tried storing because the horrible taste I have in my mouth from doing that with Dropbox. I don't store any of my version control repositories on iCloud. Okay. But I'm going to go with it today just because that's where it saved it. Okay. So let's go ahead and save this into this directory. So we're just going to save it in here, and I'm just going to call this. Another thing that I do, just to let you know, I actually save the project as the domain name. Okay. So like if this was preview.joeworkman.net. Okay. Actually, sometimes what I'll do is I'll replace the dots with a dash or underscores. Okay. But yeah, I put the domain name as the project. Just something that I do. Okay. And normally, actually, another thing I normally do is, and I'll show you this in my repository. I named this Stacks Live Versions live stream. You can name the repository whatever you want. I always name it the name of the domain dash project. Okay, just so it's super clean. And I'll show you my setup in a little bit with all my various sites. Okay. Okay, so now I saved it. And if we go into the GitHub app, it noticed that I put new files in there. Okay. And it's going to be like, hey, yo, I see all these files. What are we going to do? Okay. And what's kind of cool is I can now go, this is the first time I've saved anything into this version control history. So I'm just going to say this is the initial project file. And you can add in more description in here. You can be as descriptive as you want, put as much information as you want. And this is all for you. Okay, this is so that when you look at the version history, you know exactly what we got, right? So if we go into GitHub and we can look at our history, I can see the history of everything that I've done. Okay, so for example, let's go in here. I'm going to add in, let's make this the home page. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add in, we're going to add in another page. I wanted a new page. And let's call this like about, and we're going to call this bump. We're going to call this contact, right? Okay. And I'm going to save this project file. Okay. And guess what? I'm going to go back into, what was this? Oh, we don't need that. Okay. I'm going to go back into GitHub app and look. So if you notice in here, there's two tabs. There's changes. This is everything that's changed so far. And if I go into history, this is the history of my changes. Okay. Now, as of right now, none of these changes have been saved. Okay. So what I can do is, I'm just going to go ahead and say, okay, added about contact and what else did I add? About and contact pages. All right. About and contact pages. And I'm just going to say commit to main. Okay. So now I have a new version, which is cool. Right now. So now at any point in time, I can easily get to any version of this project file at any point in time. Super, super cool. Okay. So, for example, all right, I'm going to go ahead and let's say I'm going to add in a picture on this page, and we're going to add in this picture here because this is about me, right? So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And let's go over here. And obviously, here's everything. And if you want to look, I mean, it's kind of interesting peeking under the hood. You can actually see everything that changed when I did that, right? We can see here's the image I added to the project. Here is all the changes. Now, a lot of these changes are just going to be binary, and there's no rhyme or reason to them. You won't be able to read the changes that we made, okay? It's just changes were made, okay? So here I'm going to add in added about me photo, right? And let's commit. Okay. So now I saved that. Right. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to quit this project file because I'm not sure what I'm about to show you is going to work with the project file open, and I don't want to mess things up. So let's say, for example, remember I added that about me file. Okay. But let's say I wanted to go revert back to the initial version of this project. Okay. I'm going to right click here, and I can either say revert changes in this commit. I can check out this commit. I can create a new branch. We're not going to go through cherry picking and creating branches right now, but let's say I just want to check out this commit right now. Okay. I'm going to check that out. Checking out a commit will detach head. Yes, we want to do that. All right. So what that means is I've now, I've checked out this branch. Okay. Or I've checked out my version control from that point. So I can now access the file that is in the current state it was in. So let's go ahead and open that file again. And remember, after I did this initial project file commit, I added the about page, the contact page, and my image. Okay. So what I can do is I'm going to go ahead and open this project file. And what you'll notice is, just look over here. You'll notice that it is back to the untitled page. Always close project before committing to Git. Yeah, you can. Sometimes I as you noticed, I didn't do that when I was committing the changes. But if you're going to revert and do that stuff, I would definitely quit the project file. Okay. But as you see here, I'm now back to the state of the project that this was in, right? So if any point in time you need to, I just did some simple, stupid changes, but imagine, if you're keeping detailed logs about everything that you do, right? You can go back to a very specific time, to a very specific feature that you added to get something back or to do something, okay? Or to restore a project to a particular previous state, right? This is invaluable, right? This is awesome. This is something that Apple tried to do with Time Machine and that whole like version control document thing. Like you can like browse back. I never thought they nailed that. Okay. This gives it to us. Okay. So pretty powerful. Now, if you look here, we can go back to right now. I'm on the detached head. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and let's close this project file. Let's go back to my main branch. Okay, so now I'm back to the main branch, and yeah, let's open up that project file again. And if you notice now, the About Me page, the contact page, right? So I'm back to where we were before, right? So this is pretty awesome, right? I think this is yeah, super powerful. There's other things that, I don't want to give a full Git tutorial here, okay, and really geek out. I can, okay? But I think just what I showed so far is really, really good, okay? Now, what's also really great is, let's say I open up a project file and I do all kinds of stuff, right? And I add a bunch of stuff into here, and I even save it. And then somehow I broke something, right? And I'm like, I don't know what the heck I did. Like, I try to do Command Z and it crashes, Rapid Weaver or something like that. Okay, so what's really cool is, so if you see here, inside of the GitHub app, I'm in my changes, and from all those changes I just made, I made there's 8 changes inside the project file and all these various plist files. Okay, now I can't spot the one change I made and revert it here, okay? But one thing that's really cool is I can highlight all of this, and I can just say discard these changes. So I can discard all of that. Yes, permanently discard my changes. Now if I go back to my project file, okay, I think it was on this page. Look, all those changes that I just made are gone. My project file is still intact. Right? So one of the best practices with this is commit as often, like you finish something and it's working, commit. Finish something, work, commit. And type in a little what that state is. Okay? Let me give you a quick small example. I'm going to show you my Git repository. Let me go ahead and let me get this app out here. So this app I actually use here. Let's go ahead and let's go to Stacks. Okay. This is my repository for Stacks. Okay. It's for all my stacks. And what I wanted to show you here, again, this is a different app than the GitHub app, but the concept's the same. Okay. I have my version history of every change I've ever made. I actually have every change I've ever made for the last 15 years right here. Every code change I've made to every line of code in every stack I've ever made is all right here. Okay? Super powerful. And I can revert back to that any state of my repository for the last 15 years. I can revert back to it in a second. Really cool. And yeah, so just to show you, I commit code, like whenever I'm writing something, doing something, and I get it working, I commit. Then I work more. Oh, it's still working, commit. Blah, blah, and then commit. If you look here, this was yesterday, I think. There, I had, I don't know, is that 10 or 15 commits? That's actually probably pretty small. Normally I'll have even more than that, So commit as much as possible. Just commit, so that you have a detailed history of everything that's ever been done, and you can revert back to any exact point in time. So super, super powerful. So yeah, I mean, that's the raw basics. I think that is, I'm not going to dive into branches and all kinds of crazy stuff. Okay. Oh, one thing I should mention is, now that, I made all those changes, and if we look online, you'll notice that there's nothing here. Okay. And that's because in the GitHub app, you'll notice right up here, it says push origin. Basically, I've made all my changes local and all of my version history is local, but I haven't pushed it up to GitHub yet. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push this up. There we go. And now you'll notice now that project file is online. Okay, so what does this mean? Backups. Not only do we have version control, but I now have an offsite backup of my project file. Okay, now one thing I do recommend you do, and it is actually that way by default with the GitHub app, which I like, is you need to make sure your repository on GitHub is private, because you don't want this just to be a pub. Now, maybe you want to have a public repository where anybody can get anything they want, but I think by default having it private is a good thing. Okay. So yeah, I think that covers kind of the raw basics of things, right? Locally, if we go here, well, that's all of the repositories, and we go here, we can see I have all the changes that I've made. Right now, that I have no changes, but if you open up a project file and make any changes, those changes will be here. When you're ready, go ahead and submit and commit those changes, and then push them up to GitHub. Okay. And again, at any point in time, you can look at your history and revert back to a particular point in history with super easy with a click of a button. Okay. Another thing you can do is, let's say, I added the about me photo. Let's say I want to discard that. Everything that I did there, I just want to discard that. So I'm just going to right click and say revert changes in this commit. And now all of a sudden it's gone, right? If I go ahead and open up that project now, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that when it was open. Let's see what happens. Oh, it's there. So right on the about me, there was a picture. It's gone now. Okay. Now, if you notice in GitHub, there's this little arrow. What that means is that this particular change is not pushed up to the server. So if I wanted that change pushed to the server, I can go ahead and say push origin, and that will push that change to the server. Okay. So now we can go online, and you can actually go in here. You can say, if you click on this, you can actually see all your history online as well. Everything's tracked. Okay. Really, really cool. So what does this mean for, well, first off, let me show you kind of how I manage some things. Okay. So now I already did a live stream, and actually Josh did a talk at the conference last year about managing website deployments with Git and GitHub. I'm not going to dive into that at all today. Okay. I wanted to keep this simple, just managing project files. Okay. But just to show you how I organize things, I have everything in this app. Instead of, again, I don't use the GitHub app. Oops, don't want to do that. What we'll notice is I have a repository for the published website. Okay. So this is a repository for Weaver Space. I just made changes this morning. I had to update the reflection demo. I made changes today, pushed them up this morning. My website's updated. Okay. Pretty cool. I'm not going to go into the benefits of doing any of Git with, there's a little bit more complexity when deploying a website with Git. Okay. So I'm not going to dive into that today. But what I want to show is I have a repository for the exported website, as well as I have a repository for the project. So, and actually this one I need to modify. So here, let's go ahead and, oops, hold on. Actually, I did some other changes. I'm not going to stage this right now. Okay. So what I have is if you notice here, I have weavers.space-project. Okay. And here, let's just go to websites. Okay. So inside Finder, okay, what you'll notice is I have a directory for Weaver Space. That's my exported website. I have a directory for Weaver Space -project, and that has just the project files. All right. Actually, don't want that. Let's delete that. All right. So yeah, I recommend having, I also have a project file for a help subdomain, but yeah, I recommend for project files, I like to keep it all separate. So for example, I also have, let's say, Foundation Stacks, right? Here is foundationstacks.com. This is the exported website. Here is the foundationstacks.com -project. And guess what? That has the project file. Okay. And yeah, it only has the project file. That's it. You could potentially have one Git repository that has all your projects in it. But it's free to create a private repository on GitHub now. So like, I don't know. I just think creating a repository for every single project just makes sense. Okay. Now what's really cool is on GitHub, by default, if you make something private, only you get access to it. Okay. But I can go into the settings here, or maybe it's in or collaborators. So you can well, it's going to cause me to authenticate, blah, 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 blah. Here, hold on. Let me do that. Okay. Use GitHub Mobile to authenticate. Hold on 1 second. Gotta use this on my phone. Uh, 39. Okay. All right. So in here, you can actually add people. So like, for example, I said earlier, Sean and David are working together. So one of them would host the repository and then add the other person as access. Okay. So what that means is, David and Sean could work on a project, right? And now one thing you're going to want to make sure is Sean makes some changes, pushes it up, right? If I don't recommend two people work on the same project at the same time, okay? Because if you both make changes, merging those changes is not going to be possible. Okay? Let me repeat that. Dave works on the project file. Sean works on a project file. They both make changes. Okay? They didn't talk to each other properly, and Sean pushed up some changes while Dave was making other changes. Dave pushed up changes. There's now two different changes, and GitHub's going to go, it's actually not going to allow Dave to push because there's conflicts. Okay? And so yeah, they're going to, at that point, you're going to have to pick a version. Okay? And then either use that or take Dave's versions and manually merge them via the app, right? Something like that. So there definitely needs to be communication if you're working on the same project. Also, if you, let's say you solve the problem of only one person works on a project actively at a time. Let's say Sean makes some changes, pushes it up to GitHub, and then Dave forgets to pull down those changes, okay? Because it's a manual, hey, I need to pull down all the changes that Sean made and then make edits to the project. Dave forgot to do that, and he opened the project and starts making changes. Again, at this point, you're now conflicting as well. You have conflicts, okay? Because the project file is out of sync. Now, Git was made for developers, and normally developers are coding in plain text, and there is the ability to merge changes. However, as I showed you earlier, okay, the changes inside of a project file are like binary, okay? So you can't merge binary data. It's just not possible, okay? So yes, you need to make sure if you have two people, always pull down the most recent version first, then make your changes, and then push up, okay? That way, then if Sean needs to make changes, pulls down the recent versions, makes his changes, push up, right? Okay. Now, a potential workflow that you could do, okay, if you wanted to work on the same project at the same time, is to essentially have two project files, okay? Let's say I'm going to take Dave and Sean. You guys are the guinea pigs today. Okay. So Dave and Sean have two different project files for myamazingwebsite.com. Okay. And let's say Dave is responsible for the homepage, the blog, and the contact page. And Sean is responsible for, the blog, or not the blog. I said Dave was responsible for the blog. Sean's just twiddling his thumbs doing nothing. But he needs to feel important. So he's going to create a project file for himself. Okay. And he's going to create the treasures webpage or whatever. Create two different project files. The project file that Dave's working on has the pages he's working on. The project files that Sean's working on has the pages he's working on. And then at some point, you guys are going to have the ability just to kind of drag and drop those pages and merge them into a single project so that you can publish them. Okay. Maybe that workflow doesn't work. It's just an idea. Okay. But yeah, if you want to work on something at the same time, make sure it's not the same project file. Make sure that they're different files so that when you push your changes up, there's no conflicts up in the cloud. Hopefully that makes some sense. Okay. I've been completely ignoring the chat room, but I see it's kind of blown up a little bit. Let's have a gander in that to see what we're talking about here, or see what we can do to help. Okay, I've heard Stacksweaver is obsessed with this. Yes, he is. Okay. Okay, he flashing anyone else? Oops, stream stopped. Oops, running again. No issues so far here. Okay. Sorry if you have some connection issues. I just went with it. Okay. Always close your project before committing. To save commits, like to save a current version, I haven't had any issues with leaving the project file open, as you saw. But if you were ever doing any sort of reverting, I don't know. I would close just in case. But yeah. Let's see. There are plists that save. There are plists that save when RapidWeaver is closed. That is true. There are plists that are saved when you close RapidWeaver. Basically, it saves what page you are on and whatnot. Okay, that is true. Sounds like race commit. Oh, yes. Okay. Excellent. Just a lot of banter in the chat room. I love that. That's a lot of good fun. So yeah, hopefully this helped out, guys. I don't want to beat a dead horse. I think I've kind of gone over the basics with you. And luckily that GitHub app makes everything super easy. So if you have any more questions, go ahead and ask questions on the community. Happy to help out. Maybe post on the event post for this live stream, and hopefully you like that. Okay. So without further ado, I promised that if we had time today, we were going to poke in and see what I just released yesterday. So you can all blame Josh. Let me go ahead and share. Because, yeah, he had some sort of question about reflection. He's like, hey, can I do this? And I was like, nah, sorry, you can't really do that. And then my OCD ass basically was like, I went and looked at the stack to see what it was possible. And I looked at the code and was like, like, I was like, I could do this and that. And I can make it, man, my coding standards now are so much better than when I made this. I can make this a little bit nicer, you know? And I was like, it wouldn't take me long. And yeah, famous last words of a developer, that won't take me long, right? And so I yesterday I spent all day long redoing reflection. I completely rewrote it from scratch, as I do. And I added some features, a bunch of features, and just made it nicer. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna release this as a paid upgrade. So I think it's worth it. Stack's completely redone. And also another side effect is, so this stack, it's been around for ever, 10, 12 years, something like that. And it used to be called Fancy Image Reflection. If you're old school and you've been around, I had a fancy image bundle stack a long time ago. It was a bundle of stacks. You could buy them individually or as a bundle called Fancy Image. And the name of this stack for the past 12 years has been Fancy Image Reflection .stack. And it just drove me nuts because I don't really use the fancy image label anymore. There's still a lot of stacks like my 360 degree stack, prints, a bunch of them. They're like fancy image something, right? And so this one, it's now called reflection.stack. And I knocked one out of the park, got one fancy image stack out of there. So this is now called reflection dot stack. So small little side tangent there with my OCD-ness. But okay, let's look at what does reflection do. Hopefully you guys have probably seen the demo. I actually just shipped an update this morning. Inside preview, it would like double up the shadows or the reflections sometimes. So fix that. If you're curious, I always previewed in the browser, and this bug didn't show up in the browser, or rarely did. It had to do with these images being loaded locally and loading like insanely fast. And sometimes it would load so quick that, the canvas would get generated twice. Right? But whatever. What's really cool about this is the prior version basically did this example here, where it just reflected and the reflection went straight down. And I was playing around with stuff yesterday. I was like, how can we make this more interesting, right? So I thought adding a blur would be nice. Okay, so now it's kind of a blurred reflection. And then I was like, other things is let's skew it, right? So so that we can kind of have things off to the side. Make sure that if we round the image, it also rounds the reflection. That wasn't possible before. But yeah, I really like the skewing here. This example here, it skews and severely blurs the reflection, which gives a very interesting effect, right? It's kind of like a colored shadow that obviously matches the photo itself, right? Because it is a copy of the photo. So I think this is really elegant. When I did this demo, I was like, wow, like that's actually really cool, you know? Like this, I mean, 10 years ago, this was cool, but nowadays, you know? I mean, it's still possible, obviously, but this, wow, that's next level, right? So I definitely feel I took that stack up to the next level. Super easy to use. You drag and drop an image. You can have a one image, or if you supply two, it'll do, this one will be mobile, this one will be medium and large. Okay, so desktop and mobile and tablet. Obviously alt tags. If you want to add a link, you can do that. Some alignment options. You can supply max width as well. You can thank Josh for that one. Notice in preview, if you supply max width, it refresh fumbles up a little bit. Then you can do rounding. So that's obviously gives you the rounded corners. You can change the gap, which is the space between the reflection and the original image. Okay. And on this one, I actually had a negative gap, right? So it actually brings the reflection up a little bit. So if you notice here, it kind of goes under the image a little bit, which is pretty slick. I think I kind of like that. Just a slight negative gap to bring it up a little bit really works. The height, this is the ability of the height of the reflection, and it's based on the height of the image. So this is height 33%. So basically it's the reflection is 33% height of the image itself, right? Then we have obviously the opacity. Now, when you add blur, blur really obfuscates the image a lot. So you can actually up the opacity quite a bit, actually, when you use blur. But so opacity, the skew is what skews it to the left or to the right. So the skew can be positive or negative. If you want it skewed to the right, the skew will be positive. If you want to skew it to the left, like, I thought this one was. If you want to skew it to the left, the skew would be negative. Okay. So yeah, there we go. You can apply custom classes as well. And obviously, another thing is we all love swatches, right? So here is an implementation of it as a swatch. Okay. I have to ship a Foundation 6 update, so it's not in Site Styles or the swatches stack yet. But it will be. If you really want it right now, if you just go ahead and it is in the stacks library, just do show hidden stacks. And if you search for reflection, it's one of these. If you show the detail, it says, this one is swatch. So it's the second one that will be the swatch. Okay. And this one here, this is the old version. I shipped an update to this one yesterday as well that made the icon gray and added version 2.7 in there so that we know that this is the older version, and the newer version is the colored icon. I came up with this idea earlier this year. I kind of like that, right? When I ship a new version of a product, I'll ship the old version with a black and white icon, and then I'll add the version to the name so that we know that that's kind of an older version, and that a newer version is available. Okay. So yeah, that's how you can get to the reflection swatch. And it behaves just like you would think any swatch does, right? So you can have your selector up here, then you have all the various reflection settings. Okay. Now there's no image settings here because you're going to apply this to an image, right? So you just apply the reflection settings here. Like here I have reflection grid IMG, and there we go. So now inside this grid, I have a class of reflection grid, and it's going to target every image inside of that. Okay. And voila, there we go. Yeah, pretty cool. I think it's really awesome. I like it. Simple, easy to use. And yeah, I think it's quite elegant. Really uplifts an oldie but goodie. What about skewing the reflection on both sides, left and right? Would look great. Yeah, I saw your post about that. I did do a little bit of research on that. I'm not sure that will be possible. I did make some notes for myself to look into that. Basically, he wants it flared out this way. So yeah, I do think it's an interesting idea. I'll look into that. I'll play around. I think we'll go with what we have for now, but I did log a request to look into that for the future. But yeah, the ability to pretty much, kind of like lay it flat and have it coming like almost straight out at you, I think. Could be interesting. So yes, good idea, Matthias. I've logged it. Sweet. Okay, guys, that's it. Look, man, record time. How many years has it been since I finished a live stream early? Like, I gave you guys 15 minutes back. I've only been talking for 45 minutes. That's amazing. Man, pat myself on the back on that one. Okay. I refrain from going down all the rabbit holes and blowing your brains. So anyway, thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed today. Hope you learned a little bit. I think the version control of project files is going to be a cool one. Hopefully you guys test it out and it works for you. I should note this will work with Stacks Pro project files just the same. Okay, it's the same style of file that we have with RapidWeaver. So yeah, shouldn't be any issue at all. You could use it for RapidWeaver and Stacks Pro projects when we're ready for that. So cool, guys. Take care. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Hopefully, I'll see some of you on Friday and go out there and make your websites great. Bye, guys.